My family secretly left for the Christmas trip without me. When I found their hidden chat, I turned their holiday into a lesson they'd never forget. I was 31, working as an administrative manager at an elementary school in Vermont, where winters were so bitterly cold, even the sound of footsteps on snow felt swallowed by the silence. But nothing felt colder than what settled inside me that morning, Christmas morning. I woke up at around 8:12 a.m., not because of an alarm, but because sunlight pierced through the curtains and hit my eyes. At first, I was just confused. We had agreed to leave at 7:00 a.m., driving across states to Snowpine Ridge Resort in New Hampshire. I shot out of bed, bare feet hitting the freezing floor. Only one thought crossed my mind. Why hadn't anyone woken me up? I opened the bedroom door and called out, "Mom, Dylan, is anyone still home?" No answer. No footsteps, no cupboards opening, no trace of the 16 people who had helped plan this trip with me. The air was thick with the scent of cold coffee and leftover scrambled eggs. The sink was stacked with dirty dishes. Crumbs and cold bacon were still on the dining table. All signs pointed to a rushed breakfast, one I hadn't been invited to. I ran to the front door. My car sat alone on the driveway, dusted in snow. The 3 SUVs we'd rented to split up the families, gone without a trace. I froze in the middle of the yard, wind slicing against my face, hands shaking, not from the cold but from the truth clawing its way into my mind. They'd left without me. I ran back inside, heart pounding. Grabbed my phone. No missed calls, no texts, no one had asked where I was. I opened our family chat, the group we'd used for 3 months to plan this trip, and realized I wasn't in it anymore. Stunned, I dialed my mom. She picked up on the 4th ring. Her voice sounded oddly cheerful. "Naomi, good morning, sweetheart. Just woke up." My throat tightened. I only asked quietly, "Everyone already left?" A brief silence. Then she said, "Oh, I thought you were in Angie's car." I gripped the phone tighter, nails digging into my palm. "No, I'm home alone." This time, the pause stretched longer. I heard Christmas music playing faintly, laughter echoing from another vehicle. "Oh dear, must have been a misunderstanding. Everyone thought you were with Angie and the kids. Things got so hectic. Everyone assumed someone else woke you up." I said nothing, just listened. Heard how her voice wrapped this up in accident when something much sharper was starting to take shape. Something intentional, something cruel. "Don't be mad, sweetie. Maybe you could catch a flight. We'll make it up to you, I promise." I hung up without another word. My body felt like it had been doused in ice water. I slumped into a kitchen chair, the same one where they had eaten, laughed, then left without bothering to check if I was there. I closed my eyes, but before tears could fall, my phone pinged. A message from my sister Angie. "Oh crap, wrong person. Ignore this." Attached was a screenshot of a chat. The most glaring message, "He's not here. Mission accomplished." I reread it again and again. She. No name, no emotion, just a thing to remove for a more peaceful vacation. I didn't reply. I walked toward my room. Every step felt like glass underfoot. One question echoed louder with each stride. When did I become the person no one bothered to check on, no one needed, no one wanted around? I didn't know what I'd do next, but I was wide awake now, and I wouldn't step aside for anyone to walk over me again. I sat still in the kitchen, the phone screen casting a pale light across my face. Angie's message sliced through any illusion I had left. They hadn't forgotten me. They had left me out on purpose. I looked around the house. That same kitchen where I used to wake up early and prep breakfast during every holiday. That dining table where my stories were interrupted to spotlight my younger brother, Zach's latest achievements, now a freshman at Duke. That same stove where my mom once shoved me aside with a grimace when I seasoned the sauce wrong, only to praise Abby, my older sister, for doing the exact same thing moments later. I had known my role in this family for a long time. Abby was the successful one, an HR executive in Boston, once featured in the local paper as an inspiring young female leader. Zach the prodigy, perfect sats, 2 instruments, a state robotics champion, and me, Naomi Stable, my mom had once said flatly when asked about me. Not quite an insult, but nowhere near pride. "She's really organized," she added like she was describing a personal assistant. I remember forcing a polite smile, fingers tightening around my wine glass. They didn't see me. They saw what I could do for them. When Abby moved in with her new boyfriend in Providence, who helped her pack and organize. Me. When Zach needed a stand-in for parent-teacher night because mom had a nail appointment and dad was away. Me. Even this Christmas trip, Snow Pine Ridge, was my idea. I researched, booked it, paid nearly $14,000 on my credit card. I chose a cabin with special accommodations for Grandma, who's notoriously picky about sleeping arrangements. I made the Google spreadsheet, driving schedules, sent reminders for gift contributions. Every logistical detail mine yet, I was the only one left behind. No knock on my door that morning, no roll call before departure. 16 people, 3 SUVs, a private chat group, all accounted for except me. I opened my laptop. The booking confirmations were still there. Every cabin was under my name. I had covered the entire cost personally. I fought off the urge to cry and pulled up the receipt. November 6th, $13,920, not including extras. And now they were sipping cocoa in the mountains while I sat in an empty house. They assumed I'd stay quiet, that Naomi would be the adult, understand the chaos, let it slide. As always, no one ever asked why I was the one smoothing things over after every fight between Abby and Mom. Why I constantly canceled personal plans to babysit Zach's kids, or put my job on hold to run errands for Dad. It wasn't because I had time. It was because I wasn't allowed to say no. I remembered last year in Maine when Zach mocked me during dinner for still being single. Naomi's probably waiting till she's 40 to find someone who passes Mom's standards. I laughed it off, but when I quietly left the table, no one followed except Grandma, who looked at me with quiet sympathy and said, "Don't let their words hurt you, dear." But she didn't say anything else. Those memories piled up like old snow layers, cold, silent, and invisible. I got up, opened the cupboard, and made a cup of tea. My fingers trembled, not from sorrow but from something sharper, a clarity creeping in, like I had just slipped free from an invisible rope I'd called duty. I wasn't sure how they'd react when they realized I wasn't at the resort, but one thing was certain: they had lost the only person who'd ever looked out for them before they even had to ask. They used to call me understanding, patient, easygoing. But those words were just varnish for one truth: I was easy to exploit. And them? They only needed me when things fell apart. In joy, celebration, spotlight, I vanished. I sat on the living room floor, back against the bookshelf, phone screen still lit. With every passing minute, another door opened to a different truth. It was no longer about forgetting to wake me or a mistake. I opened Instagram. On Zach's story, a car selfie captioned "road trip vibes with the whole fam." Everyone looked radiant, and Abby was leaning into her boyfriend Ethan, who only joined our family less than a year ago but already felt like blood. Only one person was missing from the frame: me. The next story was from Mom's account, a photo of breakfast at a roadside diner. Below it, a caption in all caps: "Love these little reunion moments. Almost complete." The words "almost complete" hit me like a confession. They knew. I switched to Facebook. Abby status: Snow Pine Ridge, here we come. Love my people. In the comments there were replies from Rachel, my cousin, from Ethan, even from Aunt Melanie, Dad's younger sister, all referencing the group chat, the schedule. Let's head to cabin first, then regroup later. Conversations I'd never seen. I opened Messenger, scrolled through every group chat tied to the trip, only found one old inactive thread from 2 weeks ago. Then I searched Snow Pine. Nothing. Suddenly, I remembered something Abby once said. It's super handy to sync iCloud. Just in case anything gets lost, there's always a backup. A chill crept down my spine. I stood up, walked to my office, and opened my laptop. It was still logged into the family account we used for sharing photos and documents. The auto backup software for Abby's messages was still active, something I helped her set up when transferring to a new iPhone. I opened the Backups Abby folder. 4 zip files had been created this week. I unzipped them, holding my breath. Amid a mess of files, I opened one named TripLog Tuxt. It was an export from her messaging app. The first line: "Let's all agree, Naomi's not coming, no drama this year. Zach, she's gonna ask why no one checked. Everyone just say we thought she was in Ethan's car. Ethan, my mom's riding with me. Make sure to shift gift groups accordingly. Melanie, should we warn her? I kinda feel bad. Abby, if we warn her, no one will go through with it. Just let it happen. Don't message her tomorrow morning. Zach, Naomi sleeps like the dead. No way she notices we left." For a few seconds, I felt nothing. No rage, no sorrow, just emptiness. The cold kind, like the sky before a snowstorm. I kept scrolling. A screenshot of another group chat. One message was from my mom. "Mom, Naomi already paid for the booking. We can figure out reimbursement later. Abby, let her do it. By the time she realizes, it'll be too late. Zach, she might fly out later, but the later she comes, the less she disrupts. Ethan, should we make a separate group chat just in case? Abby already did. Xmuse actual 2023. Don't tag her. I checked my phone again. Searched for the group XMUS actual 2023. Nothing. They didn't just leave me out. They built an entire communication system to make sure I couldn't get in. I opened another file. Messages from Rachel. Rachel, this feels kind of wrong. Naomi was the main planner. Mrs. Abby, which is exactly why it has to be thorough. Last year she ruined the night because Zach teased her once. Zach, drama queen. Always too sensitive. Mom, she just wants validation. But honestly, who can stand her nitpicking this year? Enough. We need peace this year. Naomi, staying home is best. One message from my dad caught in my throat. Dad, enough debating. Anyone who dares wake her up tomorrow doesn't get to go. They hadn't forgotten me. They voted me out like a nuisance to discard. I closed my eyes. All outside noise faded. Inside, just my heartbeat, dry, loud, relentless. No tears in that moment. Only one iron-hooked thought lodged deep in my mind. They never expected me to find out. My phone lit up again. New message from Abby Naomi. If you saw that picture earlier, just ignore it. Sent by mistake. I replied with one emoji, then set the phone down. I opened the printer and began printing every message. The pages came out warm, one by one. Every line of ink, a record of decisions, of exclusion, mockery, and pretend innocence. One by one, I stacked them into a file folder, slapped a red label across the top. Evidence. I didn't yet know what I'd do with it, but the weak part of me had cracked. Everything they tried to hide was now in my hands, and it was only a matter of time. I sat on the cold wooden floor of my office, surrounded by printed iCloud data from Abby's phone. The truth was undeniable. I hadn't been forgotten. I'd been removed, calculated, discussed, mocked like a household appliance, turned on and off when convenient. The messages sent me spiraling back years. Harsh, vivid, unavoidable. I opened a desk drawer and pulled out an old leather journal. On the first page I'd once written in blue ink, "Times Naomi helped." I'd started it as a joke. Every time I helped someone in the family and no one said thank you, I wrote it down just to laugh it off. Over time, it became the only place where the things I did didn't vanish like they'd never happened. The first entry was from when I was 26. Loaned Mom and Dad $8,000 to keep the house from foreclosure after Dad's company collapsed. No paperwork. Mom promised to pay back monthly. Haven't received a dime. Next page. Zach's freshman year of high school. Zach broke his laptop during finals. I used my savings to buy him a new one. Mom bragged to neighbors. Zach studies so hard we rewarded him. No mention of me. Then Abby's minor car accident during winter. She called me past midnight because Ethan was out of town. I drove over 40 minutes, waited with her for a tow, paid $380 for towing and brake repair. Abby promised to reimburse next paycheck. Never brought it up again. I flipped the pages. Lake Champlain trip. I paid for the cabin. Total of $2,700. Family agreed to split evenly. Mom gave $400. Said she'd send the rest after the trip. Zach and Abby never mentioned it. Ethan said, "Let's settle after we're back." Then ghosted the group chat. A blank page. Then a short line. "Last Thanksgiving cut out of the family photo." When I asked, Mom said, "Must have been the angle." But I was the one who handed the camera to Ethan. I put down the pen. The room was so silent, I could hear the furnace tapping under the floorboards. It felt like even the house was used to my quiet suffering. From my phone, a message from Rachel, my cousin. "Naomi, are you okay? Something weird happened with the trip. I feel awful." I stared at the message. Rachel had always been neutral. Never quite on my side, but never cruel either. When we were kids, she once lent me her coat after Abby hid my swimsuit because she didn't want to see that body on the beach. One Christmas, while I sat eating cold bread in my bedroom because Abby and Zach didn't want to share the good food with someone who just coordinates things, Rachel snuck me the last piece of turkey. I opened the photo Rachel had attached. It was a group shot from last night. Everyone gathered around a fireplace, cocoa mugs in hand, faces lit with joy. My mom's arm around Abby, Dad chatting with Ethan, Zach strumming a guitar. Even the grandparents were there. I studied every face, the firelight glinting in their eyes. No one looked confused or guilty for accidentally leaving me behind. Another message came in from Rachel. "Naomi, I overheard a few things. They didn't say it directly, but I don't think you were forgotten. If you want to talk, I'm here to listen. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I picked up the leather journal and flipped to the last page. I started a new list, not of what I had done for them, but of the things they had never done for me. No one asked if I was okay when I broke up with my ex. No one came to the first student exhibit I organized at school, and not a single call after I collapsed from overwork and ended up in the ER last year. No one remembered my birthday without Facebook's reminder. The page thickened with ink, but this time it wasn't for self-pity. I needed to face it, to name every dismissal, every act of quiet exploitation. Not to accuse, but to remember. I once gave love and it was never returned. They never lacked chances to change. They just never wanted to. I closed the journal, placed it in the drawer, and locked it with the tiny key attached to a bracelet Abby once mocked. The cheap thing looks like it came from a cereal box. I used to laugh awkwardly. Not anymore. The tea had gone cold, but my hands were warm. Outside, snow had started falling again. No one could stop it from piling up, and no one had the right anymore to assume I'd always be there to clean up after them. I opened my laptop and typed Pine Hollow Lodge reservation into the search bar. My name popped up in the top right corner along with the description. Premium Christmas package, 17 guests, 6 cabins, all-inclusive activities. The payment total, $13,920. I hovered over the Modify Reservation button. A warning appeared. Due to holiday policies, cancellations within 48 hours are non-refundable. I paused a second, then called the hotline. A receptionist picked up. Thank you for calling Pine Hollow. This is Marcy. How can I assist you today? Hi, Marcy. This is Naomi Everett. I have a holiday reservation starting tomorrow and I need to cancel the entire thing. I heard typing on the other end. Marcy didn't hide her surprise. Yes, we have your reservation. It includes cabins, ski passes, evening banquets, even a private skating rink. Everything's set. May I ask what's happened? I took a breath. It was for my family, but they excluded me from the trip. They're already on their way without me. Even though I booked it all, I have no reason to keep it anymore. The line went quiet. I'm really sorry to hear that. Let me speak with my manager. Please hold. 5 minutes later, Marcy returned, her voice lower. In situations like this, we're making an exception. You'll receive a full refund within 3 to 5 business days. I've sent confirmation to your email. I hope you find a peaceful way to spend the holiday. I hung up and stared at the screen. What they took for granted, I erased with a few clicks. No cabin would be waiting for them. No one would be at the front desk holding a sign for the Everett family. No one would be sitting by the fireplace eating fondue at 8 p.m. I wheeled my suitcase into the middle of the living room, the olive green one I'd saved for special trips but never used. I tossed in a few linen dresses, swimwear, sunglasses, passport, and international visa card. In a new tab, I booked a flight to Bali non-stop from JFK, departing at 9:45 a.m. The next morning, the cost nearly matched what I just canceled. A fair reinvestment, I thought, scrolling through descriptions of the oceanfront resort. Private bungalows, spa, sunset yoga classes. No spreadsheets, no coordination, just me. Next, I called a locksmith. The man who answered was named Howard, voice thick with a Midwestern accent. I kept it simple. I want all the locks changed tonight if possible. Holiday rate will be higher, but I can be there in an hour. That okay? Perfect. I removed the spare keys from the rack. Abby's, Zach's, and my parents. They'd lived in my house for over 3 years. Ever since Grandma passed it down to me, they'd paid nothing except for utilities and occasional groceries. The house was mine. Legally, in the will, deed in my name. I began packing every item that wasn't mine. Abby's 7-tier makeup kit, Zach's PS5, Dad's Italian leather shoes, Mom's fur rug from Canada. Each one boxed, labeled clearly. No sentimental value, but each a reminder of how they'd claimed the space, like they owned it. The garage opened, the boxes stacked neatly inside. I left a printed sheet taped to the inside wall. Everett family property, not discarded, just relocated. Key is in the black lockbox previously installed. Howard arrived at 6:40 p.m., carrying a small drill kit and 3 new locks. Once he finished, I handed him a $100 bill and wished him a happy holiday. He smiled kindly, asked no questions. More folks change their locks during the holidays than you'd think. I laughed. My first real laugh that day. Small but real. At 8 p.m., I activated the new security system I'd installed the week before. 1 camera at the front door, 1 in the kitchen, one aimed at the backyard. Everything linked to my phone. Live feed cloud storage. As wind slammed against the living room windows, I sat back at my desk, opened my laptop, composed one email. Recipient, the entire family. Subject, I'm not there anymore. The body read, I reclaimed the money you never intended to repay. I've removed every belonging that wasn't mine. I've changed the locks. I won't be available to explain. No action is required. From now on, everything belongs to me. Enjoy your holiday, if that's what you still want to call it. I hit send. Didn't feel pain, just something peeling away, like skin from a scar, long healed. Around 8 a.m. The next morning, I left through the back door, suitcase in the trunk. My phone was still silent. Not a single missed call from Mom, Dad, or Abby overnight. That silence told me everything. They still hadn't realized what I'd done. I arrived at the airport on time and checked in for my flight to Bali with a quiet sense of relief. Sitting near the boarding gate, I turned on my data one last time before shutting down my phone. The screen lit up nonstop. 11 missed calls. Mom, never let someone call you Abby. Work. 4 texts from Zach, 3 from Dad, 2 from Ethan, 1 from Rachel. The latest notification came from the family group chat. An old one they must have redded me to without my knowing. First message was from Mom. Naomi, what happened? They said there's no reservation. Everyone's standing at the front desk and they can't find your name. Then Abby's message, each word like it hissed through clenched teeth. Mom is crying. What did you just do? I stayed silent, waiting. Then the downpour of messages began. Zach? I had to carpool with Rachel and the kids because there's no room. Our stuff got jammed into the car like trash. Ethan, this is serious. You can't ruin the whole holiday just because you're upset. Mom, Naomi, call me back right now. This can be fixed. But you have to talk to me. I didn't reply. Just opened the chat app and typed one sentence to the group. I canceled the reservation. I also read everything you wrote about me. You can call this the first honest holiday. The feeling wasn't joy. It was peace, like someone had finally lifted the invisible weight that had sat on my chest for years. My phone buzzed again. Abby, how dare you? We got here and there's nothing. Everywhere else is full. Rachel's kid has to sleep on a couch. One of them doesn't even have a blanket. Zach, you've lost it. This isn't about setting boundaries anymore. This is sabotage. Ethan, you're making Mom sick with stress. I unlocked my phone again, not to argue, just to send a screenshot from iCloud. The chat thread where they discussed how to make sure I overslept, how everyone pretends she's in someone else's car. No caption, no emoji. The messages went silent for 10 minutes. Then Mom. Naomi, I didn't know. I didn't think they'd actually do it. I thought you were in Zach's car. That's what Abby said. Dad, we need to talk. Don't act like a child over a misunderstanding. Rachel, I'm sorry. I knew but didn't stop it. That was wrong. I powered off my phone. The plane lifted from the runway like it was pulling me out of everything old. As it rose, I leaned my head against a window, watching the clouds thicken like a soft barrier between me and all the shouting from behind a screen. They didn't want me on that trip, but now they were furious because I stopped being their blank check. When I landed in Denpasar 19 hours later, my phone was still on silent, but the notifications hadn't stopped. Total 47 missed calls over 120 messages. I read only one from Abby. Fine, we don't need you, but don't be surprised if the whole family cuts you off for good. I didn't respond. They thought I needed their approval to exist, but the truth was, they had depended on me more than ever. The next day, I got a message from the courier service. Parcel from New Hampshire successfully delivered 6 packages. I smiled and sent Rachel a private message. No drama. If they ask where their stuff is, everything's in the garage. Each item is labeled. Backup keys in the mailbox by the door. She replied with just 2 words. I understand. I returned home on the afternoon of January 3rd. The sky over Vermont was gray, with a thin layer of snow covering the walkway like no one had touched it since Christmas. 4 cars blocked the driveway. Mom, Dad, Abby, Zach, even Ethan were all here. I didn't rush in. I opened the home security app. The living room feed showed everyone seated. Mom had her hands in her lap, eyes on the floor. Abby sat with arms crossed. Dad leaned against the fireplace, jaw tight. Zach held his phone, visibly agitated. I stepped through the door, heads turned like they'd been caught in the act. No one said anything at first, just the soft wind slipping through the back door frame. I stood just inside, coat still on. Did everyone read the letter I left? Mom nodded, eyes red. Abby said nothing, jaw clenched. Dad looked at me a long while, then finally said, "We read it." "Good. Then let's skip the small talk. Today, I'm laying out 3 terms. If anyone agrees, we continue. If not, I expect you to leave this house by the end of the month." I set a folder on the coffee table and opened the pages. Mortgage documents, a detailed breakdown of expenses I'd covered over 3 years, internal lease contracts I'd pre-drafted in Bali. Tomorrow, starting February, anyone still living here will pay rent at market rate. This house isn't the family home anymore. It's mine in my name under my mortgage. If you live here, you contribute. No one objected immediately. Zach nodded slowly. 2 past loans, including the $8,000 Mom and Dad borrowed, the $1,200 I paid for Abby's car repair, and every holiday I covered will now be formalized. I'm not demanding repayment at once, but each of you will sign a repayment agreement over 2 years. What? Abby snapped. You're serious? Were you serious when you told everyone not to wake me up on Christmas morning? She went silent. Mom looked away. I flipped to the last page. 3. If anyone wants to stay in contact with me, the one condition is honesty. I won't attend any party, reunion, or trip that's organized behind my back. I'm done being the silent helper. Treat me fairly or don't contact me at all. Dad frowned. You think family works like a ledger? I looked him straight in the eyes. If family can erase me from a group chat, then I have every right to audit what I've carried. The room went quiet. Zach set his phone down and sat up straighter. I agree, he said. I've acted selfishly. If you'll let me, I'll stay and pay rent like everyone else. As for the debts, I'll start monthly payments. He nodded. Mom still stared at the floor, shame now too heavy to hide. Dad sighed, stepped forward and picked up the contract. If this is what you want, your mom and I will repay what we owe, but it'll take time. I'm not in a rush, as long as the commitment is clear. Only Abby stayed still. You really want to take it this far? You think I'm pushing things? Did you even read the part where you said mission accomplished? Ethan stood slowly walking over to me. Naomi, I'm not making excuses, but I'm not coming back to this house. I saw it all. The way we laughed, cut you out. It made me take a long look at myself. I nodded. Good. What about you, Abby? She looked around. No one defended her, then turned away, her voice. I need time. The door isn't locked, but it won't stay open forever. 3 weeks later, Mom called to say she had paid the first $1,000. Dad emailed a repayment schedule. Zach paid rent on time and even fixed a leaking pipe in the basement without being asked. Abby went completely silent. I joined a group therapy session run by my therapist, Dr. Laura. Mom came to 2 sessions, breaking down in the second when she heard me talk about all the times she praised Abby in front of me and ignored everything I worked for. Dad didn't attend but sent a handwritten apology. His writing stiff and slanted, but honest. I never thought you were the one who mattered most because I always assumed you were strong enough not to need care. I read the letter in the kitchen on a snowy morning. For the first time in years, I brewed tea without feeling torn between love and pain. My old family didn't disappear. It's just relearning how to exist if it dares to live in truth. February passed in unfamiliar calm. The house no longer echoed with arguments or people calling my name, only when they needed something. Zach lived upstairs, attended school, did his own laundry, even volunteered to shovel snow off the porch every weekend. Mom and Dad moved to a rented apartment in Westford, about a 12-minute drive from my house. They kept their word and sent money every month. Abby vanished like a faded shadow. No texts, no emails, no missed calls. Didn't reach out either. After 3 therapy sessions, Mom asked to meet me alone. Not to apologize, but just to listen. She came with a homemade apple pie. No flowers, no scripted words, just quiet presence. If you want to talk, I'll sit here. I told her about the 16th birthday party she missed because she took Abby dress shopping. About the time I won a school award. But the whole family only talked about Zach's piano prize. About feeling muted in my own family. She sat still, eyes shut at times, face buried in her hands at others. I didn't need her tears. I just needed her to listen, without defending herself. In the kitchen, now painted a soft cinnamon shade, I started rewriting my own schedule. No more surprise calls from people asking me to watch the house or draft time off requests. I returned to my abandoned photography class, signed up for a Tuesday night pottery class. Every Sunday evening I had dinner with Hannah, an old colleague from my elementary school job. once part of my life before the family drama swallowed it whole. I rented out the downstairs room to a grad student named Drew, majoring in history. Quiet, clean, and always brought leftover bread from his cafe shift. One night he asked, "Did you used to study art?" I was surprised. "Yeah, a while back." "Why the photos on the wall?" "They don't look like someone who's just snapping for fun." I smiled, said nothing. But after that day, I began developing film again. Not to prove anything, just because my hands missed the feeling of drawing light through a lens. I went to Asheville for 3 days, a spontaneous trip after seeing a foggy forest photo on Pinterest. I rented a small cabin near the woods, brought my camera and a slim novel, told no one, posted nothing, didn't expect anyone to ask, "Who are you going with?" That Sunday evening, I hand-wrote dinner invitations, just a few. Mom, Dad, Zach, Rachel, and Miss Melanie, the only one who ever mildly objected to cutting me out of that trip. I made it clear. No talking about the past. No one is allowed to bring excuses. This dinner has one purpose: to eat together as people who respect each other properly. I cooked chicken lasagna with cream sauce myself. No takeout. Didn't ask anyone to bring sides. Every plate had a small note. "Tonight I listen." Zach arrived first, bringing 2 bottles of soda. Mom came next with an olive green tablecloth I'd loved back in college. Dad followed, looking tired but not as irritable as usual. Rachel and Miss Melanie came together carrying a blueberry cheesecake. No one mentioned Bali. No talk of the plan that got exposed. We chatted about the weather, Zach's internship offer, Rachel's second pregnancy. Miss Melanie joked about the headless statue in town square and how locals blamed raccoons. I didn't talk too much. I didn't have to. I no longer felt responsible for keeping the peace. I just listened. And for the first time, I saw Mom's eyes find mine. Not to ask for something, but just to check if I was okay. Dad asked about the lasagna. "Have you made this before?" "Never. I always got stuck doing the cleanup." Everyone laughed lightly, genuinely. That night, after walking the last guest to the door, I stood by the living room window. March winds still lingered, but the edge had softened. I remembered what Dr. Laura said during our last session. You don't have to cut off your bloodline, but you're allowed to rebuild those ties on a foundation you choose, not the one they handed you. I'm not waiting for my family to change entirely, but I won't let them define my worth anymore either. From now on, anyone entering my life will have to learn to treat my presence as something of value. Not with hollow thank you, but with actions that show respect. Naomi's story is a sobering reminder that sometimes the deepest wounds come not from strangers, but from the very people we once called family. She was excluded, undervalued, and emotionally and financially exploited for years. But instead of staying silent, Naomi chose to stand up, set clear boundaries, and love herself first. She didn't seek revenge through anger, but through intentional, free, and dignified living. In real life, everyone has the right to walk away from relationships that make them feel small.